So a couple of years ago, Goss made this video in which he was talking about applying powder before your foundation. So normally we're used to applying foundation first and then powder, but he was like, no, just do it the other way around. That way it stays on longer, and that usually is the reason why you put powder on top of your foundation. And it will get rid of larger pores or make them appear a lot smaller and fine lines and whatnot. And I was like, that sounds good. So what he says to do first is moisturize your skin. Now I have quite a dry skin, so I really moisturized already. And then he says to go over it with a loose powder. Now if you have oily skin, you might not need to moisturize as much as when you have dry skin. But for dry skin, moisturize really well. He also says that this is a trick that really works great for oily skin because you won't see the powder sitting on your face. You'll see the foundation because the foundation is on top. So yeah, and I guess it's great for those really hot days in summertime or whatnot. So I don't have a powder in my skin tone, so I'm using W7's Banana Dreams, which is a yellow powder. With this, I usually set my foundation, and I must say I set the highlighted places, but since it's gonna be underneath my foundation, I don't think it's gonna matter that much. He did this super quickly. He took a big powder brush and dipped it into the powder. Now I must say it is picking up a lot of powder. And then he just went over his skin. Oh. This is kind of too much. Oh. I'm gonna go underneath the eyes as well. And I must say, this side compared to that side already looks a lot smoother. Oh, and it feels super soft. Wow, it feels like I act like I'm applying makeup for the first time. And I'm really trying to feel if I set the moisturizer, because that's what you're doing, you're setting the moisturizer. Really lock it into the skin, as he says. So next I'm moving on to my foundation. For foundation I'm using Makeup Forever's Ultra HD foundation, and I'm starting off with just one pump and half of my face. He said that you won't need as much foundation as you would usually use. And I thought, oh, really? And then he said to work it into the skin like you usually would. Oh. So with the same method, if you use a beauty blender, use a beauty blender. If you use a brush, use your brush. If you use your fingers, use your fingers. I do think I need a bit more. So here is the difference. Without foundation, with foundation. I must say it evened it out a little bit, but I don't see a huge difference. I definitely need more foundation. So probably the same amount as I would usually use. But again, I guess if you would use a foundation in your own skin tone, that already gives you that coverage, then you probably wouldn't need as much foundation. Now working that into the skin as well. I'm just using a buffing brush for that. Next, I am moving on to concealer. I'm using MAC Pro Longwear Concealer in NC42. And I'm going to use this underneath my eyes to cover up the darkness and brighten it up a little bit. And on my nose. So I'm just gonna blend in that concealer. I think I've waited too long because it's starting to dry up. I washed the beauty blender, so it had some time to sit on my face. And it dried up real quick. That is usually what the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer does. It dries pretty quickly. Or maybe it's because I have dry skin, I don't know. I am gonna set my under eye with the same powder. Usually I would set my forehead, but I'm feeling nothing. It feels super dry. Like, not super dry, but like you've powdered it already. A little bit of mascara for the bottom lashes. Wow, it feels super smooth. I mean, this area I've just powdered, but the rest. He did say that if you have oily skin or oily T-zone, just touch up with powder again. So now let's just see what it looks like if you apply other powders on top. So I'm gonna contour first with Casino by Nars. Ooh, this goes on like a dream. Maybe it's the bristles of the brush as well, but this blends out so well. Next time, moving on to highlighting the face. I'm gonna do that with Nars Albatros. I haven't used this highlight in such a long time. And then for blush, I'm using this blush by Rimmel. This is 190 Coral. It all feels very smooth going onto the skin. Like you're applying it on really smooth skin. And it's just gliding on. So, what do I think of this method? I love how smooth my skin feels. I love how very easy the powders went on top of my skin. So on top of the foundation, didn't drag, didn't do anything like that, didn't look cakey, no nothing. So the contour, the blush, the highlight went on pretty smooth, and nothing looks cakey or powdery at all. The downside is that everything sets pretty quickly if you have dry skin. So my concealer set very quickly, my foundation set very quickly, because the powder underneath really absorbs all the moisture and the oils of the products very quickly. And then you have dry skin, so that obviously absorbs moisture as well. So you do have to work a little bit faster with blending everything out. But if you have oily skin, that probably won't be a problem at all. I would recommend to use the same amount of powder you would usually use on top of your foundation, and then your normal foundation over that. And that should work just fine. If you have a skin type where you don't have to set your foundation with powder, don't try this because it will probably look very dry. But if you have oily skin, or if it's a really hot day outside, or there's a lot of moisture in the air, this will definitely work, because it's just like setting your foundation with powder on top without it looking cakey or powdery. As a method, applying your powder first and then your foundation, I think it works pretty awesome. And that is the look. It's really nice and fresh, and lots of highlighting going on, nude lips, not a lot of fuss on the eyes, and just